wanted anything more. But he's gone. And that's the truth. And everything has a price. One I'm not willing to pay. Not anymore. This world was a beautiful place, just as it was. And you cannot have it all. You can only have the truth. And the truth is enough. The truth is beautiful. So look at this world. And look at what your wish is costing it. You must be the hero. Only you can save the day.
Welcome into the fourth Mother Box on this 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to you and your loved ones. If you celebrate, of course you celebrate. This is America, damn it. So we celebrate the 4th of July. Happy Independence Day. I am not only your co-host, Tom Oakry, but I am here to remind you and remind everybody that Diet Ginger is a thing and is officially the nationality of our other co-host, Kyle Cosentino. Kyle, how the hell are you today?
Go fuck yourself.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I just can feel the love for Diet Ginger. And again, all proceeds and you could send your thanks and money and thank Tim Marciano for coming up with that. He came up with the OG Stealth Ginger, and then we enhanced it to Diet Ginger because it makes a lot more sense, Kyle.
You know what? Tim Marciano is a fat clod, and he shaves his butt. So
does he?
I'm gonna put it out in the airwaves that Timothy John Marciano shaves his butt. He told me this one late evening. I don't know why, but he finds it preferable to have a clean-shaven rear.
Breaking news there.
Breaking news.
Throwing shade on our drummer, formerly of Scourge, Chicago's greatest band that nobody heard about.
He still can't play Raining Blood.
Oh, two digs on Tim in one podcast. This is like a new record.
I'm gonna hear about it. I'm sure I'm gonna hear about it.
So. Yeah, you are, and that's fine. That's fine. All in good fun, but maybe really not. But what is in good fun is today is Independence Day. Most everybody, I don't know. Do you have tomorrow off from your day job, Kyle?
I do, but I have clients later on for some reason. I don't know why.
Okay, well, there goes what I was going to set up. I mean, I've got tomorrow off, so yay me. So we'll move it along from that. But I'm hoping everybody is enjoying, if you have a 3-day weekend, your holiday weekend. We're here to talk about a very, very patriotic superhero today, and superhero movies really specifically. And we'll toss some comics and we'll toss some animated mentions in there. But Wonder Woman. Who's Diana Prince in the comics as her citizen character. We'll talk Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 84 specifically today. But before that, we have news and rumors, and there's a good amount of stuff that's come out since we've last talked. And thanks to everybody who did listen to our podcast last week that had Brad Hughes from the world famous Jedi Talk on there. It was a higher listened to and downloaded episodes in our recent weeks, and we had a lot of good laughs, so thank you to everybody who did that and hoping you are continuing to enjoy. But let's kick it off with some DC news. So James Gunn, Kyle, revealed several Suicide Squad members he considered to have in his upcoming movie, The Suicide Squad, that releases in August 6th, I believe. That is coming up, and that is right down the wire there. But anyway, so he mentioned a ton of characters that he considered for a Suicide Squad film, and even ones that he'd want to make a sequel for. So I'm going to go down the list, Kyle, and I want to get your quick reactions to these names that you're hearing about. There's one name on here in particular that I know you're going to jump down the throat of Mr. James Gunn and ask why he didn't use. But all right, Livewire, Man-Bat, Chemo, KG Beast, who we've seen in the DC Extended Universe before already, Knockout, Gunhawk, Mr. Freeze, Black Manta, Rainbow Creature, Punch and Julie, Solomon Grundy, that would have been interesting, Black Spider, Killer Frost, and Deathstroke. Thoughts?
You know, I'm not gonna throw shade on this movie, but I kind of feel like some of those characters should have been in this movie. But
Right?
again, like James Gunn did a really great thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. He brought characters nobody knew about, and made them a household name. So a lot of these DC characters, I've never heard of, and I've watched a lot of DC. So maybe he's just trying to do something different, which is great. Maybe, just maybe, we might get some of those characters in the movie anyway. I mean, maybe at least a cameo. If anything, I would want to see Deathstroke, because you can't tease Deathstroke at the end of, Justice League and not give us Deathstroke. So here's hoping that there's some Deathstroke in this movie.
And not in the funniest part about the Deathstroke cameo is it was in both versions of Justice League. It was in the horrific theatrical Justice League version. That was the extra scene, and it was still even in Snyder's cut. It was so much better done in Snyder cut because it had Batman implications in it. But I digress. We've seen Killer Frost on the Flash.
I would just want to point out that Joss Whedon is in fact a ginger. And I'm not saying that this is directly the reason why the Justice League version sucked, but I'm going to go ahead and say this is the reason why it sucked.
I appreciate the truth there, Diet Ginger. However, us gingers, and you should know this, being a Diet Ginger yourself, we do not accept Joss Whedon, that sexist, misogynistic prick, as a part of our creed. I will just officially put it out there at that.
Are you banning him from the Society of Gingers?
Oh, he is so banned. He's so banned. He's not even allowed in the Strawberry Blonde secret society of people with that type of hair. So he can stay far away. He's outcast. He's in Outworld. He's stuck in purgatory. He's never to be allowed in again, as far as I'm concerned. And I am the leader of the Redheaded Revolution. Damn it.
Okay, Curly, continue on.
Well, it was what I was saying before Diet Ginger rudely interrupted was Killer Frost. We've seen Killer Frost in The Flash, and I've been very critical of the CW Flash. It's just jumped the king shark. But I've always have enjoyed that version of Killer Frost. But we need a good DCEU version of Killer Frost. It's such an interesting character, and talk about making a badass woman. You could really make a badass character out of Killer Frost. Man-Bat has always been super interesting, just because it's essentially the opposite of Batman and one of Batman's villains. Kirk Langstrom trying to save his wife by altering the DNA of a bat, and basically turning himself into a freak. So, and then the last one, I just want to actually the last two. We heard rumors that we're going to get an iteration of Mr. Freeze out of the sequel of Matt Reeves' Batman story. So James Gunn could have very much had Mr. Freeze in mind here, and then just decided to tell Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers said, no, Matt Reeves is going to do it in like 4 years. So if we're going to get another version of Mr. Freeze, I would almost prefer it to be in Matt Reeves' version. And then last but not least, KG Beast, who is technically dead, or if he didn't survive the blast when Batman was saving Martha Kent in the warehouse, he is really, really messed up, and maybe we'll see we could have seen, or maybe we will see a more, to your point, Kyle, a more comic accurate version of KG Beast. To those who do not remember, he was in Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. He's the one that Bruce meets, or Bruce steals the information off of his phone when they're in the underground fight, like way early on in the movie. So those are just kind of my initial thoughts. If you were to pick outside of Deathstroke on that list, Kyle, pick one random cameo to see in the Suicide Squad who we know is not confirmed to be in there, who would it be?
Ah, man, I don't know. There's just so many good characters on there. I mean, you brought up some good points about them. Wow. Outside of Deathstroke,
Yeah,
I mean,
because Deathstroke is the just the obvious choice.
I mean, we could see the Joker too. I mean,
Oh,
that would
yeah.
be something.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think Mr. Freeze would be good because he's kind of too mainstream, and I feel like it would just take away too much.
Right.
Man Bat never really like got me super interested.
He has a really good arc in Arkham Knight.
He does. Maybe like Poison Ivy. I mean, I don't think she was was she on the list?
She was not on the list, although getting her involved in Suicide Squad movie would be super simple because Harley's there, so it'd be
That
so
would be
easy.
a good segue. Or Catwoman. I feel like, well, I mean, I wonder if they're going to actually do a Catwoman. They're probably not, I would imagine. But, or maybe, who knows? Because it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, there's stuff that's connected and there's stuff coming out that's like not connected. And I mean, could this DCU have a Catwoman? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, could you not envision Ben Affleck's Batman without like a dark Selina Kyle? I mean, that's
she would have to be an older woman, like a older, like very refined woman, almost kind of like an Angelina Jolie or something like that. I mean, I could see her. I mean, she would kind of be like a stock cast for that role, but I don't know, somebody who's a little bit older and mature. Who would you cast?
Oh my God. Oh my God. Who would I cast? It's like, give me an age range because are you talking about the Selena that we saw on like the Dark Knight Returns?
No, that she wouldn't. She like doesn't count really. I'm not. Yeah, Anne Hathaway, like we talked about in the past, just. Oh,
Ugh.
well, I thought you meant. I was thinking the Dark Knight Rises, but not like the Dark Knight Returns because that was like fat old Catwoman. We don't want that.
Yeah.
We would want like maybe somebody around Bruce Wayne's age because in the comics and in the TV shows, she's roughly around Bruce Wayne's age, so maybe somebody in their late 30s, maybe early 40s. That's where I would kind of put this Bruce Wayne anyway.
That'd be an interesting one to really cast up against. I mean, because you could arguably cast Michelle Pfeiffer again. She's 63.
Oh man. Well, you know what? That would be actually a cool cameo in
Flash.
in the Flash.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
because you think about like of all the people that really stuck out. I mean, we're just gonna like recognize the first and second Batman and Batman Returns,
Right.
and obviously Jack Nicholson's much too old and probably fat too to be the Joker. So, oh well, he died, of course.
Yeah.
But Catwoman or even Danny DeVito, like Danny DeVito could reprise that. I mean, I think if we get anything, I will be. Well, yeah, he died too, so like. But yeah, I feel like Catwoman could be the only reasonable pick there, if they were going to put somebody else. But then we're getting off track, so.
All right.
But I would say Catwoman, Killer Frost, or Poison Ivy. I would say those would be cool to see.
Okay. Real quick, Salma Hayek might be an interesting pick as like an older Selina Kyle, just because of the range she has.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be really interesting. Interesting. We should have a podcast about fan casting one day. That could be fun to really sit down and think about that. But
or actually, Megan Fox.
You think so?
She would be kind of like the perfect casting because she's roughly around our age, I think, and I mean maybe she could be a little bit younger, and she's kind of got that. She's got everything that's necessary to be Catwoman, I think. I mean, she's obviously very gorgeous, but she's a good actress, and then she's done like multiple different roles. She kind of can play that seductive, sleek, kind of criminal mindset of Catwoman. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of her acting per se. You know, I didn't have a problem. And it's so funny you mentioned Megan Fox because she just this week came out and said she wants to do a comic book movie. But it's funny, she's done like, wasn't she in Jonah Hex? And she was April O'Neil in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movies. And those are comic book movies technically because the Turtles started out as comic books. So, but what
That's true.
I think what she meant was she wanted a more proper, maybe DC or Marvel movie. She'd be, I would cautiously approach Megan Fox, Selena Kyle, just because they're acting. I think the look is fine for what we're looking at to pair up with Bruce, but be interesting
Wait.
to really fan cast.
You know, I always really like when they cast a nobody for any superhero movie because then you don't have any like frame of reference and it just kind of like it really just you can kind of it's like a unique approach of it. You know what I mean? Because you know, like
Right.
Ben Affleck casts as Batman, you kind of get some of Ben Affleck and you kind of know what to expect. But you know, Heath Ledger is the Joker, or um, you know, well then again, I mean that kind of like was thwarted with Joaquin Phoenix's Joker because that was just.
This is true.
But even still, like I always preferred that. I always think that that was always the best way to do it, unless there's somebody that's just too perfect for the casting.
That's a good call. So segueing a smidge, talking about unknown actors. I don't know who Tobias Menzies, if that's still how you say his last name, right? Menzies. He's a Game of Thrones actor, so I know you know Game of Thrones so much better than I do, and I don't know much. Um, and he's former Outlander and Game of Thrones actor Tobias Menzies, maybe, as Thal Sinestro in HBO Max's Green Lantern series. So we're finally starting to get some more news about this Green Lantern series that, you know what? I want to put it out there that I'm very much looking forward to this Green Lantern series, but for kind of odd reasons. Not only does Lantern's universe just interest me from a comic book fan perspective because of how big it is and how many lanterns actually exist in the galaxy. Um, I've always thought John Stewart's Green Lantern and Hal Jordan's, the dynamic between the two protecting Earth has always been pretty cool, and just the different aliens that wield the power rings. But Sinestro being cast to this role gets me excited, but I'm into it for odd reasons, and the odd reasons are okay. Warner Brothers, Jeff Johns, and DC specifically have been kind of gatekeeping Green Lantern and his character specifically to the point where they got into it and wouldn't even let Snyder, and we've made mention on this podcast before, they wouldn't let Snyder film his final scene, additional scene that he eventually went with Martian Manhunter and Bruce Wayne talking to each other. That was supposed to be John Stewart's Green Lantern. They filmed that scene, but Warner Brothers was put the foot down and said no. No, no, no. We have other plans for this character, which is like, what's the big deal? But I'm putting a lot into this series because I'm expecting it to blow me away. If you're going to take away the likes of a cameo like Green Lantern in quite arguably, and this is my opinion, and it could be fact, but quite arguably the greatest comic book movie that we've ever been given in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we get robbed of a fantastic end scene with a character that a lot of people wanted to see on screen, and it was cast as a nobody. I didn't know who Wayne T. Carr was until I heard about him filming this scene with Snyder. So moving along with these unknown actors, I'm with you. Do you know who this actor is all that well from Game of Thrones, and are you excited about it?
I don't. He must have been like not a big character because I don't remember. I don't know who that is.
Okay. But what's your hype level with this Green Lantern series?
You know, I would say this is that I never really got into Green Lantern as much, and when I watched Ryan Reynolds' version like not too long ago for the first time, like I was saying maybe in another episode, it wasn't bad. It wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. I mean, it's hard to kind of hate Ryan Reynolds as it is. So I'm looking forward to actually like starting to get a liking to the character, or at least having them sell me on the character a little bit more because I never got into that world. And it would be interesting to kind of have another superhero to really like get into, you know?
Right. And this is a series too. So a Green Lantern series on HBO Max, it's going to give us something to look forward to each and every week, which again, Marvel's doing well. And we're going to talk about Loki episode 4 in a little bit, but Marvel's doing this week after week, getting us stoked about it. They did it with The Mandalorian, with Star Wars. They're doing it with Bad Batch. They're doing it with Loki. It's time for DC to catch the fuck up.
Did they say who's going to be Green Lantern? Is it Hal Jordan or John Stewart?
I believe it's going to be John Stewart will be a main focal point, but there's going to be several lanterns. Like they're going to just explore the galaxy lanterns in as much as they possibly can. But I'm pretty sure it's John Stewart. There hasn't been too much. Like this is one of the bigger rumors and news that come out about this series since Snyder's Green Lantern fiasco got brought up.
Is that the same? Is he cast as John Stewart? Is the guy who played? No, that's
no. At least as of right now, no. But who knows? Maybe this merger of Warner Brothers Discovery, we could be surprised. You never know. I'm one to be optimistic. The Green Lantern series, like I said, got to put a lot of stock into you. So Warner Brothers, HBO Max, this better friggin' deliver. Okay, I'm expecting a lot since you're gatekeeping this character. You've been, we haven't like, are you scared because of the reception that Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie? Which you're right, Kyle. It has its faults, but God, there's been worse movies. I like
Captain
Green Lantern. Yeah, thank you. I was just gonna say I like the Green Lantern movie better than I like the Captain Marvel, and Captain Marvel's supposed to be good, according to what the internet tells me. But yeah, I've got a lot invested in this for all the wrong reasons, Warner Brothers. So, shape up or ship the fuck out. Let's get going. You know what you also Warner Brothers need to get on, okay? HBO Max specifically. So that's all I wanted on. Give me a series. Give me an Arkham series. Give me a made for HBO Max movie. I don't care. I'll pay $30 for this, but make the Batfleck movie. It trended on Twitter again, Kyle. The people have made it clear they want to see Ben Affleck's Batman movie, which is going to be Batman versus Deathstroke. For the love of fucking Pete, make this goddamn movie.
I feel like Warner Brothers should just fucking sell DC to somebody who actually really cares and is going to spend time and isn't going to continually hold up the progress or fuck it up. Just let it go. If you're not going to give people what they want, then get rid of it. For fuck's sake, seriously.
You want to know something else that's sad about this universe that Zack Snyder created? Our Lord and Savior Zack, our Lord and Xavier Zack Snyder. Did you see this news? What he revealed for his plans of Justice League 2 and 3, that the final battle of his planned Justice League trilogy, Lex Luthor would have turned against Darkseid and nuked Darkseid's spaceship, as Lex ultimately couldn't agree with Darkseid's plan to destroy mankind.
Yeah, I mean, that basically just writes itself. So, yeah. I mean, I know that would be awesome. I mean, seeing a full-on, battle between the Justice League and, Darkseid and his minions from Apocalypse would just be everything that I could hope for. It would just be the best thing I've ever seen. But I guess we can't get that because WB can suck a dick.
Mm-hmm. Yep. They don't want to restore the Snyderverse, but we're gonna scream loud and clear. I want all the versions of Batman. Going back to the Green Lantern real quick. Did you know Batman actually keeps a yellow lantern ring hidden in his Batcave in case he ever needs to fight a Green Lantern? I mean, does that surprise you?
Is that from the DCU or is that from the comics?
Comic book. That's like comic book canon.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's his prep. That's his prep if Green Lantern ever goes rogue.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, that'd be cool to see a fear wielding or yellow lantern wielding Batman go up against a Green Lantern. Oh, he'd kick their ass. Oh, that'd be so cool. Oh.
Yeah, we've seen it before. I mean they've done it in the comics, and then in the animated show, The Batman, there was an episode where that happened. So kind of anyway.
Well, let's see it. Oh, one of my favorite Batman moments is when in Justice League, is it War? Um, one of the Justice League animated series, and it's basically pulled off the pages of the New 52 Justice League meetup. But it's when Batman is talking to he meets Hal Jordan's Green Lantern for the first time, and he's just talking to him, and this is when Hal finds out that he's just a man in a bat suit. But Batman just so slyly takes off Hal's power ring. He's like, "What does this do? I assume this runs on concentration." And Hal's like, "How the hell did you do that?" One of my favorite Batman moments.
Yeah, that was a good series, like of Justice League movies.
Oh, yes, it
Especially,
was.
especially the last one. That was one of my top favorite. Like just unbelievable. And kind of disturbing too, because Darkseid, essentially wipes out part of the Justice League and plunges the world into chaos. It's fucking amazing.
They like the Justice League suffered heavy loss, loss that they couldn't necessarily get back. It's great. Go watch that run of Justice League movies, and specifically Justice League Dark. I mean, it's good to know, ahead of time what you're getting yourself into. But if you just watch Justice League Dark by itself, it's excellent. Um, so speaking about things being too dark and gritty, Kevin Smith, the popular comic book fan Kevin Smith, apparently was revealed this week he pitched his story to DC about the character The Question that was apparently too dark. Um, which is like, how dark could that be for DC, like known for being dark and brooding in Batman? And like, how dark was it? Like, did you have The Question, eating kids like Anakin in Revenge of the Sith? I mean, like, was he eating their flesh and taking their souls? Like, how dark could you and like, how dark can something get from Kevin Smith? And can I ask something of you of Kevin Smith, of what your opinion on him is?
I'd say that like he's never rubbed me the wrong way. I feel like every time that I've seen him talk about superhero stuff, I know he's actually directed some of the CW shows. Like I know for The Flash, and I think even Supergirl. He just speaks with love of these characters of the world of DC. I think he's definitely in the DC fan camp. So for me, I think he's a good dude, and I've never had a reason to not like him.
Yeah, same. But my question is, he's kind of just risen in his notoriety in the comic book fandom universe. But I feel like everybody has to write an article anytime he reacts to something. Like there was so many articles about after the most recent and latest Suicide Squad trailer that came out. Kevin Smith reacted to it and just said it looks fantastic. And there were articles upon articles upon articles released about Kevin Smith's reaction to a trailer. And I've seen this before, but like, I think he's, from the surface, he seems cool. I know he's contradicting himself a little bit with the Masters of the Universe remake that he's involved in right now. Like he's famously said on a podcast or something that he never watched Masters of the Universe growing up. And then he talked about his new series being something to the effect like it's nostalgic to him and it brings back childhood memories, yada, yada, yada. So people are kind of calling him out for that. So outside of that, yeah, I've got no problem with him. But like, why does everybody have to react when he reacts to something? Who made him king of the nerds?
He's kind of like Corey Taylor from Slipknot, and anytime Corey Taylor says anything, there's like 40 articles about it. He's just one of those people that for some reason is like the token go-to guy for all things, superhero, apparently.
That's true. That's true. So were at least the episodes that he directed for The Flash and the CW any good that you recall?
They were, they were okay. I thought it was cool. He put Jason Mewes in one of the episodes, like
All right.
briefly. Jason Mewes is obviously Jay from Jay and Silent Bob. So I thought that was kind of fun, even though
Yeah.
I didn't kind of recognize him at first. But yeah, that's that series has just gone down so much. I was so excited to watch those episodes back in a couple years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and now it's just so bad. Although last week's wasn't as bad. It kind of got back to form. It brought in Godspeed, and you've seen the kind of Flash struggle, and to kind of like defeat this villain, and it just seems like that show keeps detracting from the Flash and his abilities and just like saving people. I don't know. I feel it's like more about Barry Allen and his like friends as opposed to the Flash. Like that's the least thing that he does. So it needs to be put to rest like yesterday. It really does.
Cisco's not on the show anymore, right? Vibe is done, right?
He just left, and probably because he probably feels the same way as I do.
Yeah. I mean, Cisco was cool, but it sounds like he kind of jumped the King Shark too. So
I think it's like, again, like they misfired with these series. Like they made too many episodes. They kept going with it for many years. Like it just doesn't work that way. It really doesn't. You water it down. You water down the story.
speaking of King Shark, I think that was the last Flash episode I actually enjoyed. The one where King Shark was in, like his first appearance, and I think
that was a surprise. That was a surprise, like because I've never seen that on TV before, like from a TV show, like CGI that good.
Yeah, that was good CGI. Yeah,
he just kind of appeared at the end, and everybody's like, "What the fuck?" Like King Shark is in it. That was awesome. That was truly cool.
That was really, really excellent. And like you said, for a TV show on the CW, like they had to blow their whole budget on that one image. But we can go on forever about how bad the CW actually is, but there is one spectacular glaring thing out of the CW, and that is Superman and Lois, who is currently at their mid-season break. And we're not getting any new episodes, I think, until a week or two. I know we don't have one this week. I think we get new episodes maybe starting next week. But to steal a line from Jim Ross of the WWE, business is about to pick up on Superman and Lois. So what have you felt about the season and what we've seen so far up to this point, Kyle?
I mean, it's been consistently good. There's been really no filler, and the episodes are well written. The characters are well written. It's evenly paced. The plot's good. I mean, I hope it continues. I mean, it's really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. And it's like we're getting the best of both Superman worlds. We're getting the best of what makes Snyder's Superman awesome, and we're getting the best of what makes the Boy Scout Superman awesome. Because this version on Superman and Lois is just almost you can make arguments. He's just like, what more could you possibly want out of Clark Kent and Superman? It gives you the Smallville feel. It gives you even a Snyderverse feel, because now Superman's starting to turn, or not starting. He has turned. His brother brought him back to his Fortress of Solitude in the desert, and with the help of the saved conscious of his brother's father. What's his name, Kyle? I know it's Morgan Edge, but what's his Kryptonian name? It's escaping me.
Isn't it like Tallow L or something? I forgot it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like they kind of wrote a new character. Which
they did.
Is cool.
And I like it. It works. I like it better than General Zod. I mean, because Zod would be kind of predictable. I like it better than Zod. So we're going to see this version of Superman, turned. And we saw in the preview for the upcoming the upcoming episodes, Lois got on the phone immediately with Steel. So it looks like we're going to get him back. And we knew we were going to get more of this version of Steel, because he's been quite the badass. So we're about to see somewhat of a war of Superman versus a whole bunch of other people. Do you think they'd ever bring their version of Justice League kind of to help into this show?
I don't know. Probably not. Maybe. I mean, I feel like most of them are like on their way out, so I don't even think they're gonna. I wonder if they're gonna do the like big crossover episodes anymore. Well, then they did say they're gonna do that thing with John Diggle as like a Green Lantern at some point with like like gonna span 5 episodes or something like that. So guess
I-
we'll see what happens.
I swear to God, I saw Diggle in a preview for the upcoming episodes in the rest of the season.
That would be cool.
Yeah, especially if he wields the power ring.
Yeah, maybe. Wouldn't that be fucking epic if, like Superman goes like dark and then all these Supermen are attacking Smallville and Metropolis and then in comes John Diggle, Green Lantern. That would be fucking epic. That
Yeah.
needs to happen.
And then he just reveals that he's like, oh, my real last name was Stewart. I would go by my middle name for the longest time. something CWE like that.
Yeah, probably. Did we talk about the Smallville like a reboot animated series with Tom Welling?
We really haven't, but please, sir, give us that news. It's a good thing to talk about.
Yeah, he's reviving the series, but he's making it an animated show, and so far, he's going to reprise his role as Superman, which is really interesting because, from my impression, is that he's been wanting to get away from that character from all these years. That was kind of why I assumed during the crossover in 2019 he didn't like suit up, which was such a fucking disappointment. I mean, come on. Like, they ended Smallville with him breaking open his shirt, revealing the Superman logo for the first time. We didn't get to see the full costume. And then all these years later, we're hoping for at least like a suit up, like a small fight, something. And he's just like, nah, I don't do anything. I gave all that up. And then he just goes back in the house. He punches Lex Luthor and goes back in the house. Like, come on. That just bullshit. So,
that was up there with the Kevin Conroy disappointment of that crossover event.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I think Michael Rosenbaum, I'm not 100% sure if I remember reading he was attached, but he does a lot of voiceovers for DC, so I have no doubt in my mind that he'll reprise his role as Lex. So I'm really excited to see this.
I'm pretty sure he is attached to it. I remember watching the video that Tom Welling posted when he was like, keep it a secret, no one's supposed to know. I'm pretty sure he mentioned Michael Rosenbaum's name.
I still can't believe that's like, that show was huge back in the day. It's like a huge show that I never watched for some reason. I don't know why, but it's got a lot of love still. It really does.
Yeah, it's a cult. It's got a cult following, and what I love about animated is, well, first off, we know DC does like animation almost to perfection, especially with their animated stuff. I mean, even with the Harley Quinn series, that's spectacularly hilarious. But they could do so much more. Like, I know you've got a problem with the Doomsday in Smallville. Like, could you imagine if they brought him back and like redeemed Doomsday in an animation form for Smallville, and you see Tom Welling Supes go up against him? I mean, I know animated, but it still could be pretty epic.
Yeah, and Sam Witwer was Doomsday, and he's a really good actor, and I think, I mean, I would hope they would use him, as Doomsday, and then you could actually see a proper Doomsday fight. I wonder what it's gonna be like. I wonder what it's gonna be about, because I know Chloe won't be reprising her role because I think she's in jail. You know who Chloe? Did you watch the show? Didn't you?
A long time ago, yeah. But
yeah, so Chloe's in jail because she was like a part of some sex trafficking ring. It was really fucked up shit. I was reading about it and I was like, what? They just really messed up. But I could see Kristen Krieg coming back as Lana Lang. I don't know, and probably her name escapes me as Lois Lane. I could see her coming back too.
Oh yeah,
she was in the crossover. I forgot what her name was.
Real quick on your mention about Sam Witwer. Did you know he's the voice of Darth Maul?
Yeah, he's actually voiced a lot of different stuff. He was in a few. I think he voiced a few character in a Star Wars game too.
Yeah, he has. Maul being one of them. But he voiced, and at least for my Star Wars knowledge, he voiced Maul in Clone Wars Rebels, and even that was his voice at the end of Solo. I mean, I know you don't like Solo, but one of the coolest parts out of that movie is the end when Darth Maul reveals himself to Kira. So, and that was his voice. I mean, not I don't, was it him acting too at the end?
I think that was actually the original Darth Maul in that, because I remember watching a video of him and he was like in a crowd. I mean, somebody gave him like a dual lightsaber and he still fucking owned like with it. So I bet it was him.
Speaking of that dual lightsaber, I've got that waiting for me in Florida. I don't know if I told you that.
How many are you missing? Like, what do you need left?
Oh God. Um, jumping into a little bit of Star Wars. I've got the Skywalker Reforged. I've got Darth Vader's. I've got Leia's saber. I've got Kylo Ren's, and I've got the dark saber. And I said Maul's too. There's still a lot that I need to get. There's at least 7 or 8 sabers, but I'll add one more to the collection this weekend when I jaunt and drive over to Disneyland for one last time for a very long time.
You suck.
I know. I am well aware of that. But yes, big things that we expect. We're excited about Smallville. And last bit of DC news, James Wan, real quick, shared that they started production on Aquaman 2. I want to say something real quick about Aquaman 2, and we alluded to it a bit last show with Brad. And it was a very controversial and touchy subject, but Amber Heard, she was welcomed back onto the set of the movie by James Wan. I'm not boycotting this movie or anything, and that's not what this is, but I'm very much going to be vocal about the fact that I think they should have recast Amber Heard. I think it's completely unfair. I'm not saying that Johnny Depp is in the clear or Johnny Depp is innocent in this situation. They're both terrible human beings, okay? But the fact that he ended up losing all of his jobs and losing things that Amber Heard is just seemingly, on the surface, just everything was fine. And like I said, they're both not innocent, but, why can't we have any equality here between the two of them, right? Isn't that what we've been, looking for? Equality for even shitty things that people do. And quote me if I'm wrong. I think Amber Heard actually, speaking of shitty things, she admitted to taking a dump on Johnny Depp's bed or something like that. She's crazy. And,
oh my God!
And
I haven't read that far into it, but that's a little funny too.
Oh yeah, it's funny when you think about it, and we're mid-30s men here laughing about toilet humor, but nonetheless,
she took a dump on his bed.
I guess, yeah.
Wow. I mean, she and I have the same birthday. We were born on the same day, same year.
Oh shoot.
I was like, that's pretty crazy. Though, like, I don't want anything like ruining Aquaman. And I feel like sometimes a recast is necessary. It's kind of like with Captain Marvel. She was controversial. She made all those controversial statements right before the movie opened, and it just kind of like it really tainted the movie in some respects. And I feel like, if you're going to be a celebrity, or if you choose to be a celebrity and famous, it really you have to be held to a higher standard, because
it's true.
If that was anybody else's marriage, they would still have their jobs. Because I hear about it as a therapist all the time. That's nothing new. People do that shit to each other, but they don't lose their jobs in the process because that doesn't get out to their jobs. They don't learn about it. But if you're actors, that's probably the really sucky part, is that they're well known. Obviously, it's going to get leaked to the press, and then everybody's going to know about it. I mean, but then again too, it's like you should be better people. Like, that's not okay behavior, like on either side of it. But I don't know. I kind of hate when people get recast, but I also it's not going to prevent me from going to see the movie. It's not really a good situation any way you have it, I guess.
I hate it too. I hate when people get recast. Especially since Zach used Amber too, for refilming those scenes in the Nightmare timeline. So Zach, I've got a problem with that too. It's just, It's so touchy, and Johnny Depp should absolutely be fired from his roles if he's a woman beater and an abuser. Anybody should. If they're an abuser of any sort, you should not be, unless you can turn your life around, you should not be given the luxuries of being a model citizen and human being, right?
Well,
So
I
why
I
Amber lose it too?
I feel like if you get upset at your wife or your husband and you want to hit them, just take a dump on their bed instead. Just do that. That's better. Nobody gets hurt, and
Very
people can laugh at that. I mean, that's funny. And then maybe you might feel a little better. So that's my counseling expertise on display
Yeah.
right there.
We will leave it there. And speaking of poop jokes, we're going to go right into Marvel and our Loki episode 4 review.
Oh yeah.
So
Speaking of shit, yeah, the Loki episode 4.
it was, well, speaking of shit, Loki episode 4 was not shit like episode 3 was, Lamentus last week, but episode 4 this week. So, and really, you could have just skipped the third episode and went right into this story. Like, we lost nothing. And nothing was done, outside of the beginning of the episode. The two of them were saved from the TVA. So let's set it up real quick. Sylvie and Loki were figured out. They made a Nexus event happen by their connections. So there's some, even though they both admitted to, I guess at first they were really not into each other and made it clear that they didn't want a relationship, but that's obviously changing because they're kind of the same person, Loki and Sylvie. So they made a Nexus event happen when their connection came together, and that's eventually how the TVA found them. They showed up, they pulled them in, they arrested them again, separated them, and that's when shit kind of just went nuts and just went loose. We obviously saw a cameo. Very cool to see Lady Sif return. I don't know how you felt about that, to see her in the looped memory bubble that Loki got trapped in when he got brought back from the apocalypse that he was in, and she kept showing up and punching him and kicking him in the balls. It was funny. That joke kind of got old, but it was cool to see Lady Sif. I didn't know the two of them were kind of a thing. But moving it along, Mobius figures out that Loki's right because he tries to tell him that you are all variants. As they come back and they're negotiating, like, you're all variants. You used to have a life. The TVA is lying to you. He saves them. They eventually get in front of the council of the timekeepers with I don't know her name, but she's like the head woman of the TVA, Mobius's boss. She's there with them. And long story short, Sylvie and Loki break out of their restraints, and Sylvie launches like a sword at one of the timekeepers and slices his head right off, and revealed that they were droids. They were droids. So who the hell is controlling and running the TVA? Loki and Sylvie are sharing and this is a very high level overview of the episode, but Loki and Sylvie are sharing a moment together, and then Loki, boom, he gets pruned. He's dead. He dies again for like the 27th time. And it was even funny because Loki made mention of his death, or dying a bunch, like 5 minutes beforehand. But we eventually saw, just like, I mean, I got to give credit to Kyle. He called this out earlier this week. When Loki got pruned and quote unquote died, we all knew he didn't really die. I mean, shoot, there were 2 episodes left of his self-titled name of his TV show. And we found him on the ground. He thought he was in hell, Hell, hell. I think that's important there. That I don't know if you ever watched things with subtitles, but the subtitles spelled out hell as Hel. I think that has a connection to the it's an Old Norse goddess who was named Hel, something like that. But I think that had something to do with it. But anyway, long story short, Loki wakes up and hears the voices. I thought this was going to be the Eternals for some reason. I thought that's who the voices were going to be. But he turned around and he saw 4 Loki variants, different versions of Loki. He just saw like regular Loki, worthy Loki, kid Loki, and I didn't notice this until I watched it again, but the kid is holding like a lizard, and I guess that's lizard Loki. So what the hell's going on? Much better episode, Kyle, but what did you think about it overall?
Yeah, I would just like to clarify when I said speaking of shit, I was referring to episode 3. Episode 4 was better. It's still, it dragged a little bit, but it definitely was better. And I also called it out that I knew the timekeepers weren't real. I said that a couple episodes
Correct.
back, and you could kind of see it coming out of left field. That chick who runs it, who I don't know her name either. I don't even know if they've ever said it. I feel like she's doing it for a very important reason. Maybe there's somebody else pulling the strings. Maybe somebody really powerful. But yeah, it's kind of like taking a turn. What I thought was interesting is their kind of connection, Loki and Lady Loki, or Sylvie, in that because like initially I didn't think they would fall in love with each other, but when I started to see that connection, I thought about it. Well, Loki's a narcissist, and what do narcissists love more than anything? Themselves. So it would make sense that he would fall in love with an multiverse version of himself, which I thought was a really interesting idea and pretty brilliant on their part. But yeah, at the end, as soon as he got killed, I was like, he's not dead. There's no way. They're not going to do that. But
No.
I had no idea when he woke up. I have no idea where he was and who the other 3 people were. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. I just wonder like what's going to happen at the end.
The speculation is they're in Battle World, which I think is it Kang. Everyone I hear is talking that they think Kang the Conqueror is the one behind all of this madness.
Yeah. But he's kind of an Avengers level villain. They might save him. Unless they do like a brief cameo thing.
Who knows? Maybe this is how they set Kang up to be a bigger threat. Kang doesn't have to necessarily be the be all end all in this series. It could very much be set up at the end. Because like Sylvie and Loki could be trying to figure out in the next 2 episodes, like all of episode 5, they're trying to figure out who was running the puppets of the droids of the TVA and how the sacred timeline got put together in the first place. And then episode 6 could eventually lead up to the actual reveal of Kang the Conqueror, and he could take over from there. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities, and maybe they don't use Kang at all.
Yeah, I don't know too much about Kang. I know I've seen him in a few episodes of like, animated shows like the Avengers animated series. I don't know too much about him. So it'll be interesting to see if they, bring him to light.
Yeah, his first, he's got the abilities to time travel. He's resistant to radiation, so he'd probably beat the shit out of the Hulk, depending on how. He does have enhanced strength too. So you're right, he is very much an Avengers level villain. With the Avengers being pretty much done for, the new Avengers, I don't know who's out there who could really go toe to toe with him. But maybe I don't know. I think he's set to make his feature film debut in Ant-Man and the Wasp. I remember reading about that a long time ago.
Oh yeah, that's true. I think I read that too.
So, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I don't think that movie's until 2023. So if they revealed him now in Loki, why would they be setting up Ant-Man and the Wasp this early? So maybe I just talked myself out of Kang. We'll see.
I'm not particularly interested in him, but again, we'll wait to see. We'll wait to see what they do.
Yes, 2 episodes left of Loki. Very excited for both of them coming up. So, staying within the MCU, did you see this weird thing about WandaVision? It changed its post-credit scene. While the main purpose still remained the same of the final, last after credit scene we see in WandaVision, there have been subtle changes that fans have just noticed, and I don't think this is on accident. This is on purpose. There's like more trees now, and there's clearly an object levitating above the cabin that Wanda is sitting at, and it's like hovering down towards it. So now we know that Doctor Strange was cut out of WandaVision to not steer the attention away from her and Vision. But why is Disney doing this all of a sudden? I'm clearly assuming this is setting up Multiverse of Madness. Just this is random.
Yeah, you know what? I heard about this, but I don't. It's interesting why they did this later on after everybody kind of watched it. I don't know, but I mean, yeah, it is. Seems likely that it will lead into the Multiverse of Madness.
Speaking of the Multiverse of Madness and the movie that we're going to get before that, but Spider-Man's third flick of his sequel coming out, No Way Home. Did you see those? Or I shared with you those toys that got released that kind of reveal his suit.
Yeah, this movie is a lot like The Flash. It just seems
Yeah.
like it's bananas and it's all over the place, and in a good way, in a really good way. And in the toys, it showed a black suit Spider-Man. So are we here to assume that we're gonna get a Venom Spidey? Or there's gonna be like a symbiote action, or maybe he just has a black suit, kind of like Spider Monkey in Far From Home. But I hope it's more than that. And not only that, we saw, with one of the Lego sets anyway, it looked like a scorpion. And I know Mac Gargan was featured in, the first one, Homecoming. He was kind of like a in the background character, but the actor is really well known. I know he was in Better Call Saul. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but he had the tattoo of a scorpion on his neck. So I wonder if, it would only make sense that, bring him into the fold, and maybe we finally get the Sinister Six, is what they've been trying to do for many years.
They had the damn Sinister Six in Andrew Garfield's universe, but they didn't decide to go on the third and final flick of that one. But whatever. Was that one of Vulture's like goons? Is that who the Scorpion character was?
No, Scorpion is like a separate, is like kind of his
Right.
own villain. You remember the Scorpion?
Yeah,
Remember
yeah.
he shoots acid out of his tail?
Yeah, I was talking about in Spider-Man Homecoming. Is that actor, that Matt Gergen or whoever you were saying, the one with the scorpion tattoo on his neck, was he one of Vulture's like goons in that movie?
Oh, yes, yeah. I think he was, because I remember he spoke to him when he was on the boat.
Okay.
I know he was there, and then he spoke to him later when he was in prison. I don't remember. I know he was on the boat, but then I remember speaking to him at prison, and when he was in prison. But man, I'll have to go back and rewatch that.
Oh, was that the one who asked him who Spider-Man's real identity was, and then he was like, "If I knew, wouldn't I kill him?" or something like that? Like,
Yes, yeah. Absolutely.
okay, I remember now. Interesting. I hope we get that. I hope we get everything. Load this movie up. Even if it becomes ridiculous and hard to handle, I think for a comic book movie, it could have the potential to be pretty epic. What else that could be potentially epic? Some quick hits on Marvel news here. Rumor we're going to get Thane, who is Thanos' son in the MCU, who's going to try to resurrect Thanos. Would more Thanos be a bad thing, Kyle?
I don't know. I think maybe it might be good to let him be dead. And Thane, the avenging son, could be a good story arc. I don't know. I've never heard of Thane until I read it like the other day. And so that could actually be a real good story arc. But it might kind of fall flat because most of the Avengers are on their way out. So it's like, who is he going to avenge? Like, the few people that are left,
That's true.
Which really didn't have a big part in that movie.
No,
I don't know. That would be really interesting. But I'm sure, Marvel maybe has a plan or something like that.
Yeah,
Obviously.
it depends which Thanos we're talking about. Are we talking about the original timeline Thanos who got his head chopped off by Thor? If that's the case, who I think the Thanos would be, then he could. Shit, maybe he's the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 villain. I don't know if they've talked about who the villain potentially is in there, and I know they've set it up for different things in the second movie, but you could easily gloss over that. There's a lot of possibilities there. Black Widow reviews are out, and it's a little mixed. As when I was putting the notes together, the Rotten Tomato score is 86%. The negative reviews of the movie have mentioned the eventual demise that we already knew of the character. So the reviews are, it's like, I remember one in particular was saying, if a gun got pointed to the hero in this movie, that nothing bad was going to happen. Even if they get shot blatantly in the face, they're going to survive. So you're taking the suspense and the consequences out of it. This movie's in a very, very tough position. I've been critical about not really being super interested in it. It comes out this upcoming Friday. Am I going to watch it? Yes, it's a comic book movie, and it's connected to the Avengers. I will see it either in theaters, or I don't think I want to pay $30 for it on Disney Plus, so we'll probably go in theaters to see it. But, it's just, I'm not jazzed about Black Widow's movie. I'm not. It's just because if this were released when it should have been released after, or even if it was before Endgame, it just should have been released before Endgame, one way or another. So yeah,
That's an excellent point about, that reviewers, like when they said pointing a gun being shot in the face, that they're going to be okay. And that's really true. I mean, that's why I felt like this would have done so much better if it was actually released during the actual timeline of when it's supposed to take place.
it's the truth. Speaking of things coming and being released soon, around the same time, I think this is coming out on Wednesday, actually, the 7th. I could be wrong. Don't quote me, but a new Simpsons-themed Avengers short is coming. Tom Hiddleston is returning as Loki to join with a bunch of Simpsons regulars for the good, the Bart, and the Loki. I know a lot of people, Brad in particular, has mentioned that, or feel like Disney doesn't know what to do with The Simpsons. And they're in a little bit of a tough position with a franchise like The Simpsons, because you're trying to appeal to all the masses when The Simpsons really do appeal to the 18 and over crowd. And especially the ones like our age, 35 years old, mid 30s, who grew up with The Simpsons and still could binge them from start to finish and laugh my ass off like it was the first time I'm watching it. But I don't mind these mix-ups. I thought The Force Awakens from its nap with Maggie and all those Star Wars cameos were cool. I would have liked it to be a little bit longer, but they're shorts, so they're meant to be short. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this.
I am too. I think I always appreciate fun episodes like that. And even when Family Guy did It's a Trap, with the 3 Star Wars episodes, I thought that was fun, and I think this will be interesting, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Heck, I mean,
it's like you put Homer Simpson on the screen, and just him being fat and stupid is just enough that I need. So,
Give it to us. And last but not least, on some MCU news, Wakanda Forever production started. Kevin Feige marked that it was emotional without Chadwick Boseman, and I don't blame him. This is, I mentioned Black Widow being in a tough position. This movie might possibly be in an even tougher position to go forward without your star and your, literally poster child in Black Panther and King T'Challa. So I don't know. These are times when I'm glad I'm not paid to write, although this would be a fun challenge. Maybe fun be a wrong word for it, but it'd be a creative challenge to make a movie that you have to write off such not only an inspiring character, but a large character to the MCU universe where you just can't control. It's not like, and I know you want this character recast. I do, but it's not like there were contract negotiations and you could just recast because the actor who played him pissed you off. No, this man died of cancer, and a lot of people are going to be looking forward to this movie. So they're in a tough position, but I'm looking forward to it regardless.
I think it's a real shame, and I know we've talked about this many times before. It's like Heath Ledger's passing of the Joker. Here's a great performance that everybody loved and they wanted so much more from, but they couldn't get it because of the untimely death. And I mean, I think it'll be good regardless. I mean, I think a lot of people will show support. It probably will outdo the first Black Panther, mark my words. But
Hot.
well, I think just because like the character has grown since then, and the hype around it, and even with his death, it's like when somebody dies, it just makes you appreciate that thing that much more. And I can see a lot of people really showing support with this, especially if when we start to hear a little bit more about the plot line and the story, and then we eventually get a trailer. I think people will be really into it. I think what are you going to do? I mean, he's passed away. As long as they do it in a way that is respectful and promotes good storyline. I think they even said the Submariner's going to be in it. I think I read that, which is interesting. It's like the Aquaman version of the Marvel universe, which is an interesting choice because I feel like that's, I mean, not something that I ever thought that they would do, but it's kind of like taking a character that wouldn't be typical. I mean, I don't think Submariner's a typical villain of Black Panther, but again, we don't really know a lot about Black Panther either, so.
Yeah, I remember they specifically called out Namor. Well, they didn't specifically call Namor out, but they called Namor, or they alluded to him in Endgame in the beginning there.
Right.
When they said there was seismic activity underneath the ocean. So you're right. I think that's what's coming. So, bring it on. They're going to make it happen. They're going to make magic happen because that's what they do, and MCU is pretty good at that. So real quick hit Star Wars and theme parks news. And I don't have too much on theme parks today. It's really more Star Wars, and I do want to get your thoughts on Indiana Jones real quick in a few. But have you? I know on our last episode, it sounded like Brad and I talked into maybe catching up on the Bad Batch. Have you watched any of it yet?
I have not, unfortunately, but it's on my list.
Okay, that's okay. And I don't think you care about rumors, but real quick, Bad Batch episode 10 came out recently. It was this past Friday, so 2 days ago. In my opinion, wasn't as good, and I gave these thoughts on Jedi Talk. So if you want more in depth, go check out the upcoming Jedi Talk episode. I'll have to ask Brad when he's going to release that, but I digress. So Omega didn't go on the mission with them. They were on a mission to an old separatist planet to save their senator because the Empire was taking over. Omega did not come with, but she stayed back and learned how, essentially, I think it's sabacc, or digital sabacc, whatever they call that like chess game that they play with the animated monsters. She ended up winning a bunch of credits and was able to pay off the Bad Batch's debt. So that story arc with Sid is done. And I really want, real quick about Omega. We did mention that Omega is literally Jango Fett's daughter, pretty much. She's Jango Fett's daughter, okay? So Boba Fett's sister, essentially. So there is another Fett that exists, and it's Omega. They made that clear as day. I have a wild theory that coincides with what Brad had mentioned already on Jedi Talk, so I give him credit for half of this theory, is that Omega is Rey's mother, okay? So that would make Rey half Palpatine, half Jango Fett, essentially. So that would make a little bit more sense as to why she's good with a blaster, and she might be a little strategic. So Rey is actually something. It's in her genes. So I think Omega, they might connect somewhere in the book of Boba Fett that Ochi, the one who actually stole Rey from Rey's parents and ultimately kills Rey's mother and father. Again, I think it's confirmed that Rey's father is a failed Palpatine clone, which is weird. But long story short, I think Omega is going to be avenged, and Ochi did not die in that pit. I think Boba Fett and Fennec Shand are the ones that are going to be ultimately kill Ochi, and that's going to happen in the book of Boba Fett. Or we're going to get some sort of, I don't know, some like alluding to that. And if you remember that snake from Rise of Skywalker episode 9, I think Boba Fett or Fennec Shand is going to be the one to have actually shot that snake. So there'll be weird Star Wars-like connections in that. But yeah, let me know as soon as you catch up on the Bad Batch. I'd really like to know your thoughts. It's good. It's good. I think, there was some, Jedi Fallen Order hints when they were on Braca, and there's a rumor that Jedi Fallen Order 2 is about to be announced here soon. You loved Fallen Order, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm eagerly anticipating a follow up.
Yes. We want to know what happens with Cal. Are they going to restore the Jedi Order? Are they going to try to find all those Force-sensitive children? I have a really weird, I guess, optimistic hope that in the Kenobi series that after Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi see each other for the first time, which I think will happen in the first episode, Vader's going to end up sending Inquisitors to Obi-Wan Kenobi on Tatooine. So he's going to fight a bunch of Inquisitors. So this will be the first live-action Inquisitors we've seen. We've seen them in video games, obviously, with Fallen Order, and we've seen them on Rebels and possibly the Clone Wars, but I know they were on Rebels for a fact. Well, no, it wouldn't be the Clone Wars. Vader didn't exist yet. So Rebels, they were in Rebels, yes. So I think if Inquisitors are involved, I think Cal Kestis is going to show up for an episode in Kenobi, and you can easily just cast the voice. Cameron
Monaghan.
Monaghan. Yeah, see, I am so bad with last names. This is why Kyle's here for half the time. Just recast him as to play live action Cal Kestis. It's perfect. I mean, he looks the part, and he's ginger. So let's go. Come on, get on your shit, people. I want to see a live action Cal Kestis, and I cannot wait for his legacy lightsaber to be released. So, Kyle, something that we just recently talked about on Jedi Talk is Boba Fett's ship name. Currently, the name of this ship is Slave One. So there's been an online push to get the name of this ship changed, and Lego supposedly are releasing the ship as a product of Legos, with the name of the ship being just Boba Fett Starship. You think it's a big deal that they're changing the name, and do you think it's overreaction to a word?
I feel like, Star Wars fans, Marvel fans, and DC fans they like their comic book accuracy. And I feel like if anything changes, somebody's going to be upset about it. So I don't have an opinion on it personally, because I'm not as connected to it as you are. But
yeah.
I'm not surprised that people are pushing one way or the other.
Yeah, a lot of people, and I'm gonna just end it here on these thoughts, because again, I gave more of them on Jedi Talk, but a lot of people think that Disney / Lego might be quote unquote succumbing to the woke mob with changing the name of Slave One. So, like I said, this isn't a political podcast. I'm not going to get deeper into it than I already did. It's just interesting to dive into. So, sir. Normally during this part of the podcast, I like to bring up things that we like to talk about, and one of those things, especially for you, we're both into Star Wars. I'm obviously a bigger fan of it than you are, but your Star Wars is Indiana Jones. So, I want to get your general thoughts on essentially what happened recently with one Indiana Jones, who specifically I want to know, is he still fighting a ghost, Kyle?
Well, it was confirmed that it was a Scottish ghost. That's the part of the leftover plotline from the Last Crusade that they are apparently using as they are shooting in the castle in Scotland. Probably Bomber Castle, but I think from what I saw recent pictures of him yesterday, and he was in a sling. And one of the pictures of him, he just looks so pissed off. So I feel like it's safe to say that he lost the fight to the Scottish ghost.
3 months, right? He's out 3 months.
I don't know what.
He's out 3 months.
He's out three months, and so I think what they're going to try and do is shoot around him while he recovers. And apparently, they've been talking about it like it's chaos, trying to figure out, figuring out the schedule and shooting and making it happen despite his injury.
I hope they do. I mean, they're obviously paid to figure that out, but God, that's like losing Darth Vader for The Empire Strikes Back or Luke Skywalker for any of the original trilogy. That's tough.
I want to know what this ghost, what Indiana Jones did to this ghost to piss him off so much where he had to fight him. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you hurt Harrison Ford? Like, Indiana Jones is like it's been a beloved character for 40 years. Like, why pick a fight with him? Or maybe it was Indiana Jones. Why pick a fight with the Scottish ghost? Like, I mean, you're 78, you're on vacation. Just relax, man. Don't pick fights with Scottish ghosts.
Maybe they stole his like prunes or his maybe they made him late for his 10 a.m. lunch. I don't know. Who knows? But we're looking forward to Indiana Jones, and I owe Kyle a binge because I'm not up to it as much as he is. So,
well, let me ask this: Who
yes.
do you think shot first, the Scottish Ghost or Indy?
Ooh,
some highbrow nerdery question right there.
That was good, man. That was pretty good. I like it. And it was probably Indy still, just like Han shot first. So. Moving it along, I have a quick Ginger Snaps, and you'll be really shocked, everybody, that I'm actually going to be snapping on MCU fanboys. Oh no, the Snyder podcast guys are going to talk about MCU people. Oh my god. So look, after every episode of Loki or anything released by the MCU, this is essentially MCU fanboys. Oh my god, did you see the latest episode of Loki? It was epic. Hashtag bring back Iron Man. Those are MCU fanboy tweets everywhere. Oh, okay. I divulge and digress a little bit. It's just the toxic ones, okay? It's these toxic MCU fans that I am raging against right now. Because like Kyle and I are fanboys of Snyder and the DC Extended Universe, there exists some really fantastic fans in the MCU circle. Like I've met some great ones and had some fantastic conversations with people who actually know how to legitimately criticize a film just because it's made by their favorite franchise. So, but then again, don't you dare cross one of these toxic fanboys or you'll be met with hatred, vitriol, bullying, and excessive mistyped words on account of the fat fingering that they're doing. And the ironic thing is that the hate is coming from these same 7 to 10 guys in their late 30s, in sweatpants, all sitting on the same couch, living together, renting a house because they all can't afford the mortgage without each other and they're still struggling. I'm choosing up to bring the toxic behavior of MCU comic fans at this time, but just know that this can be directed literally at all toxic fandom. It's loaded in Star Wars. It's loaded in DC. There's Snyder fans versus non-Snyder fans in DC. It goes so much further than that. But newsflash, Husky Harris. But Avengers 2012, Infinity War, or Endgame, they don't necessarily deserve an Oscar just because, I'm not saying they don't deserve an Oscar at all, but they don't deserve an Oscar just because you fake cried in the theater when Tony Stark died, okay? You were way more into filming your reaction to the movie than the actual movie itself. Oh, and by the way, congrats on like your 2 YouTube views on your reaction. So, look, we get it. You're passionate. Kyle and I are passionate too. Look, probably more passionate than you are about the things we like, okay? But you need to understand that there is great cinema outside like the 10 plus years the MCU has existed. Every casting choice is not epic. Like every time they cast somebody in the MCU, you see fanboys are like, "Oh my god, perfect casting! This is so epic!" Like, calm your tits. Like, calm the fuck down, okay? Every movie is not the best either, okay? And every line is not the funniest. And every moment is not the defining moment of your childhood. You're 39, Brenda, okay? You cried when fictional characters got snapped away, but you knew they were fucking coming back, okay? All right, and I'm calling out Brenda, who sat to the left of my wife and I when we saw Infinity War at Disney World. Did you? No, you just saw Endgame with us, not Infinity War, right? Yeah, we just saw Endgame. But
right.
there was a woman sitting to our left who was like super pronounced and just doing it because everybody else was doing it. It was as clear as day, and she freaked the fuck out when Black Panther got snapped away too. It was so annoying. But look, people, pick up your dropped sandwiches, dust off the stale Doritos on your chest, and get a life outside of a world where someone saved the universe with a dance battle. Yeah, that happened in the MCU.
Ah,
Let's not forget that. So, Kyle, what are your? I want to start getting your thoughts on my rants here. What are your thoughts about MCU toxic fanboys?
they're the worst. They're the absolute worst. It's kind of like in the metal world, it's like Tool fans, just the absolute worst for an absolute terrible band. And that, yeah, and shots fired.
Oh,
Tool
shots
sucks.
fired.
Tool
Holy shit.
sucks, and they sound like slightly better grocery store music. So,
Damn. What the hell did Maynard ever do to you?
well, they just made the same. Well, they don't make the same songs. Their songs are just garbage to me. It's just like processed garbage. I don't know. Whatever the case is. We're talking Marvel, though. We're talking Marvel. And I didn't see any. I personally didn't see any crying in Infinity War, but the whole theater was destroyed in Endgame. I'll never forget that when we saw
That's
that.
true. They were.
Amazing performance. But yeah, they can be a bit much. Like they can never reach across the aisle. That's the one thing that I never see. They never reach across the aisle. It's always like Marvel has to be 100% the best all the time. And that's not the case. Just like DC isn't 100% the best all the time. They think just because the DC movies got a few bad reviews, which were unjustified, that that Marvel is the king of everything. Well, it's not. It really isn't. Marvel's made plenty of shitty Marvel movies. I mean, we got Captain Marvel. We got the couple of Thor movies. I wasn't that excited about Ant-Man. I mean, and Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, I said Guardians of the Galaxy, so go fuck yourself if you think otherwise. But yeah, the overpronounced thing that grinds my gears. Like get some authenticity into your life. If you cry because you actually feel it, not because you want to be recognized and noticed by everybody.
Yes.
But if she was truly crying, it probably sounds like it's because they ran out of beignets.
Wait, man, they serve beignets at a movie concession stand? I got to get in on that.
Or, well, no, it's because they didn't. So she just realized that they didn't sell them there.
That makes more sense. But you know what makes a lot of sense? Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman and the Wonder Woman that we've been given thus far in the DC Extended Universe. Quite possibly one of our more patriotic heroes. I mean, obviously, Captain America exists. Okay, he's got to be the poster boy of Independence Day. But this is a DC podcast, and we like to talk about DC Extended Universe things. So we're going to talk Wonder Woman. So let's start with first and foremost the first full feature film that Gal was given. Now, call me a bad fan, whatever. I know Linda Carter had her TV show back in the 70s, but I don't know. And Kyle, if you know this, let me know if there was ever like a full-length featured movie with Linda Carter in it.
I don't know either. I kind of, I have a friend who's a little bit older, and he's just as much of a DC fan and superhero fan as we are, and he said that he raves about that show. But I feel like I just can't go watch that just because it was made in the 70s, just like the Shazam show that I found out about that was made in the 70s. Like just because it would just probably ruin it for me. So I'm just going to let it be good back with the people who watched it in the 70s. But I don't know if they made a movie. It would make sense if they did, though. I would probably err on the side that they did.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's like a lot of people, I mean, it was at least a modern take on Wonder Woman, right? She debuted in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, an excellent debut, which we'll talk about a little bit later, specifically in our ranking list. But Wonder Woman 2017. So this movie essentially was a period piece during the First World War, and that's where she meets Steve Trevor. Yeah, she meets Mr. Steve Trevor, who is famously Wonder Woman's love outside of the times that she's been intimate and in relationships with Superman. But Steve Trevor is normally the one who's most looked down upon as not down, but looked at upon as her love interest. So we meet Diana Prince on Themyscira. She's training. She wants to train. She's a kid. She wants to be a warrior. She's got this drive inside of her that she can't quite identify, and her mother, the queen of Themyscira, the queen of the Amazons, is really forbidding her. She starts to learn some things behind the scenes. Her mother finds out, and she continues to train as she gets older. In present day for the movie, we're talking like 1917, 1918, around that time. She harnesses her skills to as much as she possibly can. Something happens on the island, and the queen looks at her and says she can never know what she truly is. So Steve Trevor flies away from a bunch of the bad guys, the Germans, I believe, flying away with stolen information. Crashes in Themyscira, gets saved by she's not Wonder Woman yet, but gets saved by Diana Prince. Learns about the war, is convinced that it's Ares, and goes to try to find Ares, thinks she finds Ares, and so much more happens during this movie, but I'm giving a very elevator pitch review of it. Finds, who she thinks Ares is, kills him. Turns out that really wasn't Ares, and Ares reveals himself to be, someone who was an ally. So a nice twist. I didn't think Professor Lupin could pull that off in both worlds, but yet there we are. But she ends up killing Ares or destroying them, defeating Ares. I don't think Ares is completely gone, but Ares is dead, at least subdued, and Steve Trevor sacrifices himself for the betterment of everybody else, and the movie ends on a somber note. And Wonder Woman gets her photo from Bruce Wayne back, sent directly to her. So there's even Batman connection in the first Wonder Woman movie. So, Kyle, what are your thoughts overall about the first Wonder Woman flick? For me, it personally lands on my fourth favorite in the DC Extended Universe.
I really liked it. I wasn't really a fan of Wonder Woman until Gal Gadot got, cast. I think she was a perfect casting. There's just something about her that just makes the character great. Not to mention the awesome theme music. It's one of my favorite theme musics that she has. The first movie was a good solid film. It didn't like change the game or anything like that, but it was a good solid film. It had a good story, a good good characters. We saw the world of Themyscira for the first time, and it was just really, really well done. I liked the fight scene at the end with Steppenwolf. There was just some good acting between her and Steve Trevor, or what's his name? I forget his name. Gal Gadot. What's Steve Trevor, the actor?
Oh, Chris Pine.
Chris Pine. Yeah. There's some good. There's good chemistry between them, and there's good action scenes. I really personally like the scene where she's wearing that cloak, and she's in like the foxhole or whatever with the other soldiers, and then she just says fuck, kind of like says fuck this, and then she takes off the cloak.
Yeah. And
she just gets up and she just starts walking through the battlefield and deflecting the bullets, and then just starts kicking ass. It was a really cool film, really, really awesome. I feel like I couldn't have asked for a better first outing for Wonder Woman. Really increased my interest in the character.
You know what this movie does incredibly well too, without putting it in your face, is it's clear as day, like especially where the time and place that this movie takes place, like women are oppressed. It was obvious that they were, they did not have, and again, not getting political here, but back in the 1900s, early 1900s, sub 1920s, things were a little different and a very, 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 very male dominated world. And they were looked down upon, right? Just you would never hear about a woman CEO. It was always secretaries or assistants, stuff like that. But the movie, they kept true to the period, and they didn't really shove it in the face. But then, like, here comes, Diana Prince of Themyscira, who doesn't know how the world outside of Themyscira works, but she's a warrior. She's, everything that, a free, strong, independent woman could and should be. And she's very inspiring to all the people that she comes in contact with, even those who don't need to be inspired by somebody of the opposite sex if they're a man, if that makes sense. It's a very good message for, a strong female character. And, the fact that the fact that this, I guess, the build up to this movie, like, it should have been more geared towards like this is breaking barriers for little girls and women and women superheroes, instead of the attention that Captain Marvel got for essentially the same reason. And Captain Marvel's film cannot hold a candle to Wonder Woman's. They're on different levels. Um, so this should have been more in the forefront. And especially Patty Jenkins did such an amazing job. I didn't know too much of her before Wonder Woman, but now she's got, she did Wonder Woman 1984, which we'll talk about in a second, and she's doing Rogue Squadron, a movie for a full feature length for Star Wars. And that movie's getting the December Star Wars release, and that's the same timeline that episodes, like main episodic Star Wars episodes, get released. That's when Episode 9 was, Last Jedi, even The Force Awakens. They were all in December. So that's huge. So this really launched Patty Jenkins' career, and there were so many glorious moments that we got out of this movie. But do you see what I'm saying? How the movie gave us a strong lead female character without making us know that they did.
Yeah, and I think that's the best part about it, is like they didn't make it adversarial. Like you can show a strong independent female on the screen without having to like constantly put it in the viewer's face that like she's stronger than men, she's better than men, and because that's a turnoff, and that's sadly what they do. And I feel like the other part is the attitude of Gal Gadot and Patty Jenkins. I remember specifically during DC Fandom last year when it was their panel, they had showed like people who dressed up, as Wonder Woman. One of them happened to be like a guy. He dressed up as Wonder Woman.
I remember that.
Gal Gadot says it was really brilliant. She's like, "This is what it's about. It's not about male men or female. It's about what this character means and how it can make a person feel powerful. It means that they can make them feel like they can do anything." And I really like that message because, you're basically saying this is a character for everybody. It's not just for women. I mean, it is a woman's character, and it is about that. It is about empowering women, making them into a superhero, and just like the boys. But it's also like, guys can like her too. Guys can look up to her. Guys can be inspired by her just as much as women are. And I think that's the better message, unlike Captain Marvel's approach, which was, we all know how that went. I mean, and so there's a difference in reviews there. If you look at the reviews for Captain Marvel, or like the fan reviews anyway, Captain Marvel versus Wonder Woman is very balanced. It's very positive, from all sides, both critics and fans, whereas critics raved about Captain Marvel, whereas fans, I think that's when they broke the tomato meter, or the Rotten Tomato meter. That's when they changed it, which, again, I think let art be art. If people don't like it, then let them not like it. That's what it's all about,
Yeah, I'm totally with you there. And you're right. She made a great mention at DC Fandom about that one particular gentleman who did dress up as Wonder Woman. It's like, it's just about what inspires you. And this movie inspired me to really see the light that, and I don't know if you agree with this, but I think Wonder Woman's the true leader of the Justice League. Batman at times could be too extreme. Superman is too powerful to be the leader of Justice League. I think Wonder Woman balances it out perfectly, and she's almost like the pseudo behind the scenes leader that does all the work but doesn't get the credit.
She's the backbone. I mean,
Yeah.
she's lived the longest, and she's probably the wisest, if anything, because all of her teachings on Themyscira, and I feel like she's maybe the most balanced. Whereas she's kind of like, maybe that's what Zack Snyder did when he made Batman v Superman, is because Wonder Woman is maybe a balance of both of them. Batman's kind of more the dark persona, whereas Superman's more the light persona, and Wonder Woman is kind of like the balance between the two. Maybe that's a good way to look at it. But she's definitely the backbone. I would definitely agree that she definitely is kind of like the unofficial leader of the Justice League, at least from this DCU's perspective, anyway.
That's true. That's true. And moving along in that universe, you said she's the oldest. In Wonder Woman 84, we saw her take on the likes of Cheetah, Maxwell Lord, and dealing with a different time period. She's been on Earth for quite some time, for 60 years. Steve Trevor's been dead. Obviously, Diana Prince doesn't age. I don't believe she's been back to Themyscira, but she's in the world. She's secretly saving people. People don't quite know who Wonder Woman is yet, which is how the movie opens. She's in a mall, very, very reminiscent of the old school Linda Carter series. But you get like this, you get this nostalgic feel to the open of Wonder Woman 84. And I found myself very taken aback that I was nostalgic about it, because I'm like, I never watched the 70s Linda Carter stuff, but it was just cool to see the like the modern take on the old school thing. And then she saves the little girl, so it's like, okay, typical superhero. And then you get into the nitty gritty, and Wonder Woman 84 to me, it's a little bit on the lower of the list for my DC Extended Universe flicks. It was very entertaining, and I loved watching it on Christmas, and then I loved watching it again when I had COVID earlier this year. It was something that I that I did while sick, but still fun to watch. And I thought we had a great performance by Pedro Pascal with Maxwell Lord. It was a nice take on that character. Had a good arc. It was nice to see that character, redeem himself and reunite with his son after all the terrible, selfish things that he did in that movie, especially with I called a monkey's paw, but you know what I'm talking about, the actual wish granter that he was using to get his way and become the actual person to grant wishes. I don't know why it's the name of that is escaping me, but long story short, then we get one of Wonder Woman's most popular villains in Kristen Wiig's Cheetah. So I love the dynamic between the two, between Gal and Kristen, when they weren't, fighting each other as Wonder Woman and Cheetah. I liked, it was interesting how Cheetah was essentially getting the powers of Wonder Woman. It very much made sense how that would happen in that type of world. I would have loved to have seen a little bit more out of Cheetah. I hope she's not done, because she is such a prominent Wonder Woman villain. There's more to that story. So, again, Wonder Woman 84 didn't necessarily move the franchise ahead at all. It just established Gal and Wonder Woman as who they are in the world in that time period. And we're getting Wonder Woman 3. So I'm going to ask you what you want to see out of Wonder Woman 3 after I get your thoughts on 1984.
I think 1984 was a good movie, but it was also a little bit of a letdown. And I think we were all anticipating that it would be a lot better than it was. I think there was some good casting, some strong performances there, especially from Pedro Pascal and Kristen Wiig as Cheetah. But there was definitely some things that just didn't make sense and some plot holes. I mean, the movie did drag a little bit, and it was a bit long. And I feel like whenever I find that I'm saying a superhero movie, especially a DC movie, is too long, then something's up. I think the invisible plane scene was cool. I liked the fight between Wonder Woman and Cheetah, but I felt like it should have been a lot longer and more drawn out. I felt like it just needed to be more. We needed to see more of it, and I think it's a good plot, kind of plot device when they build up the villain so you don't really see him until the end. But I also feel like you really need to see the villain. You want to see what they can do, and you want to see a good fight. And we saw a good fight, but it just was very short-lived.
Yeah.
I loved the ending scene where you hear the Batman vs Superman music. I was totally blown away by that. That's one of my favorite themes from that soundtrack from Batman vs Superman, and she gives that long speech. What else did I like about it? Yeah, I think the Steve Trevor thing was a little bit, I don't know, maybe forced, but I guess it made sense. It like the the whole Wish thing didn't really, that plot device didn't really grab me too much. I maybe feel like I wish they went in a different direction, but yeah, and Pedro Pascal wasn't really like a villain that she could fight. You know what I mean? She wasn't like a he wasn't like a Doomsday or like somebody who could match her physical, power.
Right,
but
he wasn't meant to match her physical power in the movie. He was meant to challenge her mind, where Cheetah was meant to challenge her physical presence. Yeah.
Right. I guess I wish there was a little bit more action in it, a little bit more fighting. I thought what they did really well was with Kristen Wiig's performance. She did really well at transitioning from kind of a dork to somebody just like Gal Gadot or just like Diana Prince, who was very smart and intelligent and very hot. Like she was gorgeous. What they did there was brilliant, and I thought she looked great in the film, and she acted great too. So I think there were some definitely goods and bads. I definitely would put Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman, further ahead than this one. But I'm really looking forward to the third one. I think Gal Gadot by herself as Wonder Woman is something I will always find interesting. So you'll get no complaints out of me, even if it's not as good of a movie. I'll still like it because she's in it.
Yeah, agreed. So with all that being said, with those two movies, what do you want out of Wonder Woman 3? We're getting it. It's been confirmed. I don't know what year, but they've already greenlit it for Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot to come back. So what do you want to see out of Wonder Woman 3? Because I know which villain specifically I want and what story I'd like for it to revolve around, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it might be good to bring her to the present because the past two films were in the past. The first and second one were in the past. So it might be interesting to see her in the present and just show more action. Like in Zack Snyder's Justice League, where she saves the people from the bank being robbed. That was such a brilliant scene. That was such a powerful scene. Watching her save those people and protect everybody. And just with her music, it was brilliantly shot and brilliant.
Epic. Yeah.
So epic. I love that scene. As far as villains, outside of Cheetah, I don't really know too many of her villains. I mean, I've
got a good one for you.
Tell me what you think. I would just say for me, I would want more action from it.
Okay. And I think with this particular villain, we would get it. Maybe not necessarily the two of them because of who the villain is, but we would most certainly get more action just because of what the villain can do. So what do I want out of Wonder Woman 3? Long story short, I want it to be in the present times too. I want it to be post everything we've had in the DCU up until that point, because we saw like Wonder Woman back in the 1900s. We saw her, in the 1980s. Now give us a modern Wonder Woman. I mean, we saw her in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but a standalone modern Wonder Woman flick. And the perfect villain who debuted in 1943, so he's been a Wonder Woman villain for a long time. Dr. Psycho. Those of you who may not know Dr. Psycho, if you watch the Harley Quinn animated series, although that being a comedy, Dr. Psycho was on it and one of my favorite characters. But he's an actual pretty serious Wonder Woman villain. And he would make a perfect villain for her because he's a misogynistic asshole, just like he is in Harley Quinn's, series, even though it's a comedy, and they do a really good job of, breaking off of that. But he's just a misogynistic asshole and those are perfect. Dr. Psycho would be perfect, just up against like a strong female character. He's telepathic. He has mind control and the ability to create illusions. So, he could easily control an army to fight against Wonder Woman by herself. Mind control, who knows how he's a very strong psychic, so he could tap into Wonder Woman's mind and really control her from there. And if he's got the ability to create illusions, here's another way you bring Steve Trevor back. Even if it's just a cameo, you get, Wonder Woman really screwed up in the head thinking that she's living in another world. It would really test her mind and strength at the same time. In this movie too, I would set the seeds for like the Legion of Doom or like the Secret Society of Supervillains or like some super group because Dr. Psycho is heavily involved with like the LOD. So that's what I'd want to see out of Wonder Woman 3. Give me Dr. Psycho in the DCEU.
That sounds like a good plot line to me.
Yes, sir. So, I'll jump right to, unless you had any final thoughts, just kind of talking about, and we can end the show with this specifically about our top 5 overall Wonder Woman moments that we've seen thus far. So did you have any other thoughts before we kind of end with this mini countdown here?
Well, I have a quote, but I'll do it after.
Well, yes, of course. Your quote, yeah, it will end the show. But all right, I have an honorable mention on my. So we're ranking our top 5 Wonder Woman moments from comics, animated film, or movies, just to round the show out today. I'll go first real quick because I do have an honorable mention, and I'll mention the honorable mention first. But it's in the Flashpoint Paradox when Wonder Woman kills Aquaman. The reason why it's one of my favorite moments is just because how out of left field it is. And like Wonder Woman is such a different character in that version of the Flashpoint when Barry Dunn fucked up the timeline. Like you would never expect her to kill an equal like that. I mean, they had a relationship too. It's just crazy. And I think actually seeing it go through, even though the timeline eventually corrected itself, was pretty nuts. So I'll let you go first for your number 5, Kyle, unless you have an honorable mention too.
No, I don't have an honorable mention, but that is a pretty badass scene, Flashpoint.
Yes, sir.
So I'll do it 5-1.
Yeah, 5-1.
I would say walking across the battlefield would be number 5. And for the reasons that I mentioned before, because it was just a cool scene. It was brilliantly shot, kind of like, her coming out. Number 4 would be when she's fighting Doomsday in Batman v Superman. I thought that was, she's like holding Doomsday as like Superman's about to stab her with a spear, and like it's just a cool scene. Like it's badass, and her music is playing and everything. Which would go into the next one, which is when she jumps in front of Doomsday's beam before it's going to, annihilate Batman. That was such an awesome like entrance to who she is, and like because the entire film she doesn't really Wonder Woman up. She's just kind of like in the background. You don't really know too much about her, but then like the music just hits and she just jumps in front of this beam and then she starts kicking ass. Fucking amazing. One of my favorite scenes from that film. Where are we at?
Number two,
I would say the ending scene in WW 1984 with the BVS music. That was cool. When she starts, when the music kicks in and she just starts giving that speech. It's really passionate, really inspirational. Loved it. And my number 1 comes from Zack Snyder's Justice League, specifically, is when Aquaman stabs Steppenwolf and fucking throws him, and then she just cuts off his fucking head. It was epic. My jaw was at the floor. It's like, oh my God, that was so cool. One of my favorite Wonder Woman scenes. Fuck yeah.
It's so funny. You and I have quite a few of the same. Just one that's different. Just one that's different. So I'll go hit my list real quick, and I agree with everything you said there. And you could really shake these rankings up, at least my rankings up, from top to bottom. Depending on. First off, before I give my ranking, I did want to mention they did do I'm sure you recall this, but in a crossover event that DC and Marvel had, Wonder Woman did yield Thor's hammer. So I just want to point that out to everybody who might be listening, and that just point out that she's worthy of wielding such a spectacular weapon. So, and she could possess the thunder powers of the god of thunder and Thor himself. So she's a god. If she possessed Thor's powers at the same time, that's pretty fucking epic. So, all right, number 5 for me, and this is
you can either pull it from the comic book or pull it from Justice League War, the animated scene, because it happened in both of them and it's perfect in both of them. When Wonder Woman is like introduced, or before she knows the Justice League, she's known to the world, but the world is kind of raging against her. They feel like they don't need protection, and she's just bringing destruction. So there's outside of the White House, there's a protest against Wonder Woman because she was showing up to meet with the president that day, and she gets out of the limo that she's in with Steve Trevor, and kind of confronts everybody and is like, "Why are you? What do you have against me? What's your problem?" And long story short, somebody calls her a whore for dressing like that. They're giving her shit. This is when Darkseid starts to invade. So a bunch of parademons boom tube to the section she's at. She ends up defeating all of them, saving a bunch of people. And I can't remember if this scene happened before or after she saved everybody, but there was a little girl who had ice cream, and she like the ice cream falls, or she picks it up for the little girl, and the little girl offers her ice cream. And Wonder Woman takes the ice cream and like licks it herself and has it for the first time, and she turns to the guy selling it. He doesn't make it, but he's just selling ice cream. He's like, "Sir, you should be very proud of this invention." It's just such an iconic, like, because she doesn't know what ice cream is and she thinks this guy created it. They kind of did something like that in the first Wonder Woman film. They made a callback to it. So that's my number 5 moment, is the Wonder Woman ice cream scene. Number 4 is, just like you had on your list, Wonder Woman 84's Beautiful Lie scene, when A Beautiful Lie is playing in the background when she's giving her speech. I think Patty Jenkins doing that as a nod to Zach was one of the most gorgeous things I've ever heard in my life and seen. Just like you, I was very much taken back during this scene. It tugged at the emotions a little bit because of the connection to Batman vs Superman. That's a cult classic. My second favorite DCEU film. So the fact that that movie has that connection, and that just reiterates that Snyder's characters exist, I love it. So number 3 for me was your number 1, Wonder Woman killing Steppenwolf in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I'm so glad that we got to see that, because originally I think she cuts off the axe, right, in Justice League. Like, she cuts off Steppenwolf's axe or something, or she cuts the axe in half instead of his head. Like, this dude is a pathological, lying, serial killing alien from another planet trying to take over the world. Warner Brothers, it wouldn't hurt anybody to see him come to a demise. I mean, hell, like, Marvel had Thanos' head cut off. Like, why the hell do you have to edit out Steppenwolf's head getting cut off by the warrior princess?
At least they didn't. At least nobody did a dance.
Ugh, that's true. Number 2 is her debut in Batman vs Superman. Just when she drops, and then when in the song "Is She With You" starts to play, and she fires back from her gauntlets right to Doomsday. It's just so name a better character, or name a better superhero introduction.
That's the best superhero introduction probably of all time. Maybe like right up there with Batman Begins, where he shows up in that warehouse. That's one of my favorite scenes too. But oh man, even thinking about that gives me chills and goosebumps.
Right. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that
Snyder, man.
Yeah. Zach delivered on her. He really nailed the casting. When I didn't know who Gal Gadot was, all I knew is she was in the Fast and Furious franchise when I heard about the casting, and I had my thoughts, but I honestly couldn't see anybody else playing the role than her right now. So, and finally, last but not least, my top Wonder Woman moment is the moment that you mentioned. I believe it was your number 5, but walking through the battlefield, commonly referred to as the no man's land scene. She sees the suffering. She sees the people in need. She feels the war. She thinks Ares is there. I mean, she asked to be taken to the battle. She's like, this is where Ares is going to be. The focus of his hate and power are going to be here. Like, the fact that she just blindly is going into mankind's problems, taking it upon herself and being everything that they need her to be, just knocking bullets left and right, wielding things off of her, just walking in the middle and just starts running towards it and just allowing the the troops to catch up and get a fair advantage is just so freaking. It's such a great climax of that movie. It's such a great scene and so defining for Gal's Wonder Woman. Ugh.
Amen to that.
So I don't know about you, but specifically for next week, once we get past our news and stuff, I think isn't the Resident Evil Netflix series getting released sometime this week?
Let's I believe it is. Let me do a quick check.
All right, check on that, because I'm thinking we could maybe talk a little bit about Resident Evil. You and I are both big fans of the franchise, and since that's releasing, it'd be fun to rehash the past a bit.
Let's see, July.
What's it called? Like something
Infinite Darkness.
Infinite Darkness, that's right.
What's today? Today's obviously
Today
the
is
4th.
the 4th. Yes.
Actually, maybe it's not. Maybe it's not till the end of the month.
Oh, even the end of the month? I've got a release. I have a first episode date of July 8th. I'm looking right here on Netflix website.
Oh yeah, fuck, I missed it. Okay, yeah, July 8th. We should talk about Resident Evil.
Hell yeah! Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm gonna have to go back and replay some of that. So, thank you everybody for sticking around with us on today's episode. We had lots and lots of fun talking everything that we love to talk about, what we know best. Thank you for joining in. Please follow us at Fourth Mother Box on Instagram and the Fourth Mother Box Podcast Facebook group. Please search for that, or let me know in a direct message that you'd like to join the group, and I will get you in. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe everywhere that the Fourth Mother Box Podcast is at, if you haven't already. And Kyle, leave us with your words of wisdom for today.
Okay. This one comes from the Wonder Woman movie. Okay, so from Diana Prince herself. She says, I used to want to save the world, to end war and bring peace to mankind. But then I glimpsed the darkness that lives within their light. I learned that inside every one of them, there will always be both. The choice each must make for themselves, something no hero will ever defeat.